joining us. Let's bring him in. Andy Mangione, who is the Senior VP of AMAC Action, or AMAC, which is obviously the Association of Mature American Citizens. Andy, welcome to Of the People.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So I know, the way this show works, you were probably in the green room listening a little bit about Chris Widener, and, Rebecca Weber was one of the people endorsing Chris's book. So I know there's sort of a synergy in all the show, but, AMAC is the largest, 50 plus conservative, I wouldn't even call you senior organization, but 50 plus organization in the country, membership almost 2 million, also a sponsor of Israel Appreciation Day, which we wanted to thank you for as well. But we wanted to sort of build off of what we've talked to Chris about and sort of the coming American revival and the role that AMAC saw of faith played in this election, because all the numbers we're looking at, whether it's, the Catholic vote or just the evangelical vote, really showed up in a large way, I think, and was one of the difference makers in November 5th. But you're closer to the ground, than we are on that. So I'd like to get your take on that.
Well, I think, first of all, AMAC is an acronym for the Association of Mature American Citizens. I'm Senior Vice President for AMAC Action. We're the C4 not-for-profit. We're the pugilists. We fight. I represent the membership in Washington, D.C. On their behalf and in states throughout the country. And when you're talking about what role faith played in this election, I think it's a very good question. I know I've had countless conversations with many, many people. I think it was July 13th when President Trump was almost assassinated. And my wife and I were sitting on our porch. I believe it was a Saturday. It was a beautiful summer day. And I'm scrolling through my phone and I saw what happened. And I just looked at her and I said, I hope God spared his life to be president. Mm-hmm. And I cannot speak for God. But when I related that to other people, and anyone with faith that I talked to, regardless of the denomination, said exactly, we can't speak for God, but we hope that he spared his life to be president. And I think that that type of faith resonated among Christians, Jewish people, among everybody. And how could you, I caught the last bit of your interview, and and when people are questioning President Trump's faith, I have to believe. How could you get shot in the head and have that not change your life? How can that not? Yeah. How can he realize, or how could he not realize that this was not a coincidence? He turned his head just in time. That bullet grazed him. It still hit him, but it could have been much worse. And he might have had an epiphany. And I believe he did. And I believe that people could sense that epiphany with every speech that he gave. Every rally that he attended, you saw the numbers of people there. Yeah. And I think things changed for him spiritually after that, after that assassination attempt.
I agree. I remember the first couple of times we saw him after it happened, and his whole face changed, like his deportment changed, and I said, a near-death experience can't not change you. It can't.
Right. Exactly right. And I think when he talked about it, I watched, when he talked about it, I watched speeches after the attempt, and he said, I'm here because of the grace of God. That was genuine. It was authentic. It was believable. And I think it connected with people, not only in the arena, but anybody who was watching.
Yeah.
And like all of us, right? And a flawed and imperfect messenger, right? But there are, at least I know I am, right? Ericka, you may not be,
I'm perfect. But I don't know about you guys.
That's absolutely you are, as far as the guys on the show are concerned, right? We've learned. But I want to, because everyone expects, my friends, I talk to them and they say, oh, Trump, save us. And I keep trying to say to them, and again, part of the conversation with Chris Widener, who was our prior guest, also want to get your take on this, is how do you complete the work? Because the solution is not in the government, right? What we want to do is get the government out of the way, right, and we want to return it to the communities. You want to return it to your, houses of worship. A little bit about the First Amendment. It always makes my head explode when I listen to some of the talking heads when they say, well, the Constitution doesn't say that about guaranteeing freedom of religion or guaranteeing, and I'm like, Yeah, it does. Right. And people, even my friends say, well, Trump save us. And it really isn't the solution, Andy, back in the communities, houses of worship. It's not. I mean, we just want Washington out of the way, right?
Exactly right. When you talk about Trump save us, he's a man. He's a man. He's mortal just like we are. He's a flawed sinner just like we are. And we have to take a step back and look at the reality. He's going to have about 18 months to 2 years to make any changes. He's going to act quickly. And we're looking forward to that. But let's be realistic here. Accept Jesus Christ. Save yourself. All right. Realize that your fate is in your hands. It's in God's hands if you get to know him. And I think that these houses of worship are reiterating that message. But we are given free will to make the most out of our lives. We could follow Christ or we could not follow Christ. That's up to us. No one man is going to determine our fate. We determine our fate. And I think that if you put your fate, or if you put all your faith in politicians, it's misguided. Put your faith in God.
Yeah, I mean, how is that any different than the left, than liberals who are like, oh, the government can save you,
Right.
so we're going to have all these programs and whatever that always end up hurting people. Like, it's the same thing. I do not believe that there is a person or a government official that can save me. Wait, what is the quote, Robert, from Ronald Reagan? Like the scariest words?
Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the most disgusting things I heard during the Obama administration, I think it was Jamie Foxx, who was introducing President Obama at the time, and he said, "Our Lord and Savior, President Obama." I
missed that one. Ouch.
I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit there. I'm sorry for the graphic.
So gross.
But it was just something that I was just so, as a Christian, as a Catholic Christian, I was offended by what this is what we're up against. I think one of the things that President Trump revealed was that the left has an insatiable lust for power. They don't care. As long as they will step over the corpse of their dead mother to get it, to expand it, and to maintain it. Yep. And this is what we're up against. Their God is, as you well know, is abortion. Their God is expanded government. Their God is climate change. Yeah. This is what they don't care what the country looks like if it's in ruins, as long as they get to rule over it. They will live one way and we will live another.
Yep.
And I think President Trump kind of revealed that during his campaign. We have much more work to convince other people, other people, like-minded people, that this is exactly the opposition. This is who we're up against, and they're not going to change. They'll be back. That's why President Trump only has 18 months to 2 years to make effective change.
Because, and I was around and I did, work in helping the Bush reelection in 2004 when we won both chambers. And I remind people that in 2006, we lost both chambers, right? So it's and President Trump is term limited, and the Democrats understand how to play chess. I do want to add something, Andy, that the pendulum is starting to swing the other way. One of the people we talk about sometimes in the show, I don't know if you're aware of the superintendent of education in Oklahoma, a gentleman named Ryan Walters, who is introducing in the educational system there, putting the 10 Commandments back in the classroom, right? Putting the Bible back in the classroom. And look, as someone who's Jewish, right? I understand the value of faith, and to me, I don't see really any difference between because that's why they call it Judeo-Christian values, right? But that's why when you look at, there are some people starting to fight the fight, because the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights basically says that the government shall pass no law.
Yeah.
And it means the federal government that establishes a religion, right? There's the Establishment Clause. But it doesn't mean that states aren't free to address this issue as they see fit, as you're seeing with like Ryan Walters in Oklahoma.
Absolutely. And fortunately, we have wonderful organizations that we've partnered with, the Alliance Defending Freedom, that spends a lot of their resources on defending the First Amendment. And we have done some campaigns with the ADF in terms of free speech and freedom of religion. You're absolutely right. And I'm a big fan of federalism, and I'm a big fan of power to the states, and the federal government being
The 10th Amendment.
Yeah. I mean, maintain my infrastructure. Okay, maintain an army, protect us in terms of the military spending here and abroad. Make sure I've got nice roads to drive on. But beyond that, leave it to the states and they'll take care of it. And that's why, you have to be vigilant in all 50 states. And AMAC Action was, and on specific issues like election integrity, we did, and life. And some issues where some conservatives were being debanked based on their conservative values by large banks, and we helped get a bill passed in Tennessee, signed into law that prevents that from happening. It should be model legislation for other states. So we're keeping an eye on these things, but you're absolutely right. It's a good thing that the states, can act independently of the federal government, but it doesn't mean that we cannot be any less vigilant with what they're doing, as in addition to what's going on in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
No, I agree with that. And I like to point out these examples as we go, because as I look back at the election, right, and hindsight being 2020, I will tell you that I think, because from all the data I've seen, the Catholic vote, I think, surged nationally 10 points in favor of President Trump. In 2020, if I remember correctly, it was almost 50-50. I think it was like 50-49 or something like that on a national level. There's a 10-point spread. And I think part of that is, and I'd love your opinion because, we get into the weeds here a little bit, is I think when Kamala Harris, who I think was about as flawed a candidate as there was, but on so many levels, I wouldn't know where to start. But when she skipped the Al Smith dinner, in New York City, which is, it's sort of an anti-Catholicism laid bare to me. It was disrespectful. It was, I don't know. What's your take on that? But you look at seminal things in the election, right? I look back at Mitt Romney, who, when he reached across to Barack Obama in the debates and said, "I'll bet you $10,000," you lost the American public, because the American public doesn't bet $10,000.
That's
right. They'll bet $1, right? So when she skipped the Al Smith dinner, which I just thought that sent a signal to the faithful Catholics of America that I disrespect you. What's your take?
Well, I think that was a disrespectful, colossally stupid move on behalf of Kamala Harris. I also think that when she made fun of the two college students who were at their rally site, what did they yelled, "Christ is King" or "Christ is Lord," words to that effect.
Christ is King. Yep.
You know what she could have said? She could have said, "Amen, amen." Now here's what I have to say, but she didn't. She said, "You're in the wrong wrong rally. Go to the smaller one down the street." I also think when she didn't choose Josh Shapiro to be her running mate, which would have been the more logical choice, she may have won a couple of those swing states. We could be talking about a completely different outcome today.
That's right.
I think she was an equal opportunity offender, but she upset Catholics by not going to that dinner. She upset every Christian by the way she reacted to those two college students, and she upset our Jewish friends by not choosing somebody who could have really helped the ticket, as opposed to the guy that she did choose, who was just a comedy of errors.
Yes. Well, and that's one of the things that is so funny to me, is like, I love it. I think it's perfect. She went all the way left. She said, "You know what? I'm here. We've already been, Joe already broke his mandate to be a moderate. I'm here. I'm just going to go for it." And the country said no. They made it clear and decisive. No, we don't want your leftist policies. We don't want communism. We don't want socialism. We don't want transgender surgeries free in prisons, for the love of all that is good and holy.
And that, and for not to mention, I mean, the topics that really concerned AMAC members included immigration, included election integrity. They feared for the sovereignty of their nation. They knew that the borders were thrown wide open. It said, and I've read some recounts of the election, that abortion wasn't necessarily as big an issue as it was 2 years ago in the midterm elections. But I think what countered that were all the moms and all the parents of school-aged children in public schools that were realizing and had seen and had witnessed what's going on with secret social transitioning, what was going on behind their backs with their children. That may have countered or overwhelmed the abortion issue this time. This is why we must remain involved. We must remain engaged. We're very blessed with an AMAC membership that's over 2 million Americans over the age of 50 in all 50 states, and they are highly engaged. And we rally them from time to time on specific issues in the states and at the federal level.
That's amazing.
We need that level of engagement, and it doesn't take much. It's just being informed. We saw leftism on display for the last 4 years. We also saw what was going on in schools with COVID, when everybody was learning from home, and parents were keeping an eye on exactly what the curriculum was and what was being taught. So I think all these kind of added up to a vote for President Trump to counter an abortion issue that the left was really relying on that really didn't materialize.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, isn't that age group like the most reliable demographic to vote as well?
Yes, in terms of getting out the vote, yes.
Okay.
Our members are, and I tell you, 2,500 AMAC members worked the polls in 13 key states, including Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, all of which were won by President Trump. And I just wanted to add there, we did a 6-month campaign to ask our members to commit to working the polls because we needed as much conservative scrutiny on these elections as possible. And they stepped up.
I love it.
But by the way, the one thing that I would fine tune to what you said is that the last 4 years were leftist policies. I would tell you that the last 12 of 16 years,
40,
right?
70 years, 80 years.
Because I would argue that Joe Biden's term was nothing more than a third term of Barack Obama in one form or another. And it depends if I want to put on my tinfoil hat, about exactly how much, Obama and his people were involved in the third term of Obama anyways. And come on.
It's not necessarily a tinfoil hat because it was the Obama administration in terms of staffing and the staffers reconstituted. So,
that's right.
I don't think you have to put on a tinfoil hat to figure that out.
No, I get it. So in the time we have left, for the people who don't know AMAC,
sure.
How do they find you? Tell them a little bit about the things that AMAC Action, and we understand, we have the RC3 and C4, and I love the word pugilist. I think I'm going to steal that word for American Coalition. Because I love, being a pugilist. I get that. But AMAC Action, what are the things that you're involved in? What, how do they contact you? How do people? Because this all does come to Trump's not going to save us. We have to save ourselves, and that comes to getting involved with organizations like AMAC, and building that membership. So, talk a little bit about that.
I'm happy. AMAC was formed 17 years ago to compete head-to-head with an organization that says that purports to represent every single American over the age of 50, and they don't. All right. We have over 2 million members in all 50 states. You can get the same types of benefits, the roadside assistance, all the insurance products, all the Medicare products, travel discounts. We're constantly building that out. We have a very robust menu of benefits for people to join. But what you also get is full-throated conservative advocacy in Washington, D.C., and in states throughout the country. I'll just give you a quick example if we have time. We ran a 17-state campaign to educate members on critical election integrity issues like banning ranked choice voting and ensuring that only U.S. citizens can vote in our elections. And the objective of these campaigns was to drill down the details so our members could learn about how good or bad some of these issues were, and cut through the noise that was being made by dark money groups that are misinforming voters. And every campaign included an urgent plea for AMAC members to get out and vote, and we activated about 800,000 of our 2.1 million members in these 17 states. I'm happy to report that these critical election integrity ballot measures were passed in 11 states, and with measures still pending in other states, because they're still counting votes in some states. So what you get as an AMAC member is full-throated conservative advocacy, like-minded people, and we also have the AMAC Foundation that is our education hour. That's the C3 that specializes in Social Security. They're experts at Social Security and Medicare, They have a hotline that people can call. You don't have to be an AMAC member to take advantage of it. But right now we're running a special, $1 for 1 year of AMAC membership. And you can go to amac.us/sign up. So for $1, try us out. We put out a wonderful magazine that comes out 6 times a year that's chock full of great information for $1, and it covers a household. So it'll cover you and your spouse. $1 for 1 year, amac.us/sign up.
And I want to add to that, Andy, that AMAC, right, the Association of Mature American Citizens, AMAC was the first organization when we put together Israel Appreciation Day. Chris Widener, our prior guest, was my co-host. The first organization to step up and say we support this was AMAC, and for that we are so appreciative, because really what we really all know is this isn't, even though there's this anti-Christian, I would say, bigotry in the government, and that's a whole term of Christian nationalism, and they've dubbed sort of the devout Christians as the most likely to commit domestic terrorism. I mean, all sorts of craziness, but it's really about Judeo-Christian values that are under attack, right? And what I say to my friends, because they talk about this whole river to the sea thing, I have to explain it to them. I think most of them know it now, but I said, look, guys, the Jews, we're the canary in the coal mine. We're the tip of the spear here. If they drive the Jews into the sea, I said, you're Christian? They would say, yeah. I said, you're next. I said, because that's really what this fight is all about. So for me, to you, and to Jonathan and everyone else, and Rebecca, we wanted to thank you, because you guys were the first organization to really step up to support Israel Appreciation Day, which was bringing together people who might not have agreed on a lot of other issues, but agreed on this and said, well, let's put our differences aside, because this is important, because it's not just about Israel, it's about Judeo-Christian values and Western values.
One of the reasons that our late founder, Dan Weber, who's Rebecca's father, started AMAC, because he recognized the attack on our Judeo-Christian values, and he wanted to return America to those values. The support for Israel is a tremendously worthy cause, and thank you for the acknowledgement, and thank you for what you did.
It was I was just the eye candy. We put together a hell of a volunteer team. But so, Andy, thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Andy Mangione, Senior Vice President of AMAC Action. Go look up AMAC, and if you're not a member, join. Now is the time. Yes. Andy, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Good show today, Robert. Good show today.
Well, but you know what it comes down to, right? It comes down to what I was talking about in the monologue. And it really struck me when and one friend in particular, we were talking about it, goes, I hope Trump will save us. And yes, we want Donald Trump as president. I think it's great. He's a flow. But I said to him, it's not about Trump saving you. Right? It's, yes, you want to rein in the federal government. Yes, you want smaller government. Yes, you want government accountability. Yes, you want to get this DEI woke nonsense out of government. But, we also, public schools, right? What we call government run schools, right? You want things back in local control, and it really requires people to engage and be involved. So Chris Widener, Andy Mangione, and the people who are really making a difference. It's just really heartening to me that, and it's going to be a long battle. We didn't get into this overnight. This is 20, 30 years that we sort of have taken our eye off the ball. It's going to be another 10 or 20 years before we get this back.
Unwinding the administrative state, all of the, the spy agencies, that's right. I mean, how do you undo, what was it Kash Patel was saying? I was listening to Kash Patel, who we had on the show recently, talking about there's something like 7,000 FBI agents or something like that. That's why. How are there 7,000 FBI agents and we still have trafficking problems and crime and fentanyl coming across the border? Because
they're looking the other way, and they are focusing on only those things that they feel need to be fought from a culture war standpoint. Let's not forget You go back to Barack Obama, who famously said, about flyover country, which means
Yes.
not New York, not LA, but everything in between. Well, those are the people who cling to their guns and their religion.
Bitter
right?
clingers. Yep.
Bitter clingers, and they're the enemy, right?
Yeah.
Again, people look up the term Christian nationalism. It's coined by the federal government.
Yeah,
right?
they're
It's in that.
busy. They're busy coming after good, decent, law-abiding citizens. They're worried about trying to figure out how to create de facto gun registries and all this other stuff, rather than what they were created to do. And
Right.
so,
So-
as with everything,
So it's not about the Trump saving us. And Andy Mangione is correct. We talked about it. Trump has 18 months. So there is going to, and you think the liberal media has their hair on fire yet? I mean, you do have to love, however, Morning Joe Scarborough, and Mika Brzezinski, who suck up now because their ratings are in the tank.
Dude.
Hat in hand, they go meet with Trump. They meet with the devil himself, right? According to the left,
right?
They meet with Donald Trump. And now they have the revolt on there. It's just from their step. It's just
my favorite.
It's amazing to me.
My favorite thing, Robert, is Charlemagne the God, lowercase g, was like, oh, now that the election is over, they're all like, oh, peaceful transition of power, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, it's almost like they were lying to us about how dangerous Donald Trump is. And I was like,
bingo.
Ding, 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 ding. Like,
ding, 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 ding.
give the man his prize. Hey, here's the deal. Like, if Trump turns out to be the Antichrist, I'll be the first person to eat my shoe. Okay. But until then,
you don't wear shoes. That's what I heard.
It's my, I got my fancy hippie shoes on today, my Birkenstocks. Okay.
I love the footprint. Can everyone show the footprint? Come on, let's see the footprint. You need to change those soles, babe.
They're brand new. No, these are brand new. That's like what happens. It looks more gross than it actually is.
Okay. Put your shoes back on. No one wants to see your shoes. Okay. But look.
I'll eat it though. I will.
Look,
pork and all.
Again, let's reestablish, revitalize, restore back to traditional values. And it doesn't mean telling everyone else what to do. That's the other side, right? This is about personal freedoms and personal responsibility, and looking out for your neighbor, and being able to congregate in your houses of worship and through your community involvement and things like that. I mean, that's really what this is. And that's the 10th, the concern I have is that he's got a lot of work to do in 18 months. So that pendulum is going to swing the other way really hard. And if you think that the liberal media has their hair on fire now, just wait until Trump follows through on what the campaign promises that he made, and we'll see what happens. There you have it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. You'll continue to hear our guesses, our hypotheses, our theories. We should start calling this political theory. Maybe that
would make me who? Jean-Jacques Rousseau in The Social Contract?
Hey. Okay, so if you like this video,
more like Machiavelli, but that's a different discussion.
So if you like this video, if you got something out of it, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel.
Wait a minute. What do you mean if they got something out of it? If you're listening, you got something out of it. Subscribe. Leave a comment. I mean, give us your best shot.
You liked it. You hated it. Who cares?
Right.
Do it anyway.
I care.
Subscribe.
I care.
Hate watch us. All of the engagement. Hey, engagement is engagement, ladies and gentlemen.
Excuse me. Do you think anybody could hate watch you?
Oh, absolutely.
No chance.
For sure.